From around the corner and around the globe, bringing the pagan world to your screen, this is the Pent News for October 2013, with your anchors Michelle Hawkins and Carl Neal.
Merry meet. Welcome to the Pent News. I'm Michelle Hawkins.
And I'm Carl Neal. September was a very busy month for us here at the Pent News, with happenings all over Oregon. But let's get started with international news.
There was a rather surprising statement from Xi Jinping, the president of the People's Republic of China. Reuters reported on September 30th that President Xi believes that China is losing its moral compass and is urging others in his government to begin to offer tolerance to traditional Chinese religious beliefs. President Xi believes that traditional spiritual teachings, including Confucianism, Taoism, and Buddhism, will help to reverse what he sees as his nation's moral decline and obsession with money. This is a fairly startling thing to hear from the leader of the Chinese Communist government, a man who grew up in the atheistic world of Mao's Cultural Revolution. Perhaps religious freedom has a surprising new ally in China.
Let's hope that's true, Michelle. It'd be really exciting to see a new spiritual awakening in China.
Yep.
Turning to Australia, it seems that the leaders of several Christian churches in the tiny town of Wedderburn, Victoria, have banded together in an attempt to stop local witches Jackie Stillinga and Gay Washington from organizing a first-of-its-kind New Age festival in Wedderburn. Local church leaders fear the witches are, quote, bringing the devil to Wedderburn, end quote, a town of about 700 residents in rural Australia. The Gold Seeker Christian Church, the Uniting Church, the Church of Christ, and the Anglican Church all met to show their solidarity against the event. The local Catholic Church did not participate in the meeting. After negotiation, the churches have agreed to accept the festival as long as they're allowed to have their own booths at the event.
Meanwhile, in India, September saw the annual festival for Ganesh in Mumbai, India. As people's concerns about the future have grown along with inflation and regional instability, the festival has grown to an amazing size. Now, with corporate and organizational sponsorships, the number of elaborate and expensive Ganesh statues included in the celebration has grown to over 13,000. The city has imposed a 25-foot height limit on the statues, which, at the end of the festival, are taken by raft to the Arabian Sea and slid overboard to be dipped in the water as an offering to the popular god. Many of the statues are jewel-encrusted and covered with gold necklaces and other treasures. They are offered in hopes for the removal of obstacles and better fortunes in the coming year. The festival itself has grown dramatically in the last decade, which some have viewed as the resurgence of belief among the people. Also in India, one of the principal teachers of the Vipassana meditation movement, S.N. Goenka, crossed the veil at the age of 89 in his home in Mumbai. He began teaching meditation techniques in 1969, and his courses are now offered at no cost in 172 meditation centers worldwide.
Wow, sad passing. Turning to domestic news, the Pagan News Collective's Minnesota Bureau has reported on a bill before the U.S. Senate that would define journalist in a way that some believe would exclude many pagan journalists and other members of the alternative media. The definition would require that a journalist must be someone working as, quote, salaried employee, independent contractor, or agent of an entity that disseminates news or information, end quote. And that has many volunteer journalists concerned that this definition might not only disqualify them from getting press credentials, but more importantly, might strip away the legal protections afforded to journalists who wish to protect the identities of their sources. This is actually an issue being addressed by state legislatures and court systems around America. In Oregon, for example, the Uniform Trial Court rules are currently being revised, and similar language is under consideration in Salem. Terms like media and journalist are being redefined by the internet and modern communication. As law-abiding, tax-paying, and voting citizens, it's our duty to keep abreast of this type of news and let our voices be heard. In Oregon, any changes to the Uniform Trial Court rules are posted for the public to comment on, and the Pent News will let you know when you have an opportunity to respond to any changes that might impact our ability to bring you news that matters to our community. This is also, in my personal opinion, one more argument to show how critical it is for the pagan community to develop a full-time professional media.
Absolutely. Pagan activist Patrick McCollum attended the International Day of Peace celebration at the United Nations in New York on September 21st. A Bay Area activist, Reverend McCollum, is an active participant in California's pagan prison ministry. He has attended the Peace Day celebration to escort a large group of international youth refugees to the United Nations to participate in the festivities.
Right on. Finally, on the national front, the La Mesa Courier in California ran a great article a few days ago about the Starcraft's pagan shop and talked with owner Teresa C., who provided some wonderful information about the misconceptions about Halloween and the differences between the witch stereotypes so commonly seen this time of year and those who actually practice the craft. For me, it was very nice to see this type of an educational piece rather than the traditional Halloween stories that focus on sensational or inaccurate information. So we just want to say, great job, La Mesa Courier.
As many of you know, September is the height of Pagan Pride Day celebrations across America. This was certainly true for Oregon. For the second year, Oregon was hosted 2 different Pagan Pride celebrations. On September 7th, Salem held its second annual Pagan Pride Day celebration at the Woodmansee, is that right? Mm-hmm. Woodmansee Park. 2 tracks of workshops, vendors, information, booths, snacks, and drumming all made this an awesome day. Let's take a look.
Portland continued its long-standing Columbia Willamette Pagan Pride Day on September 15th at Oaks Park. Although the skies were a little grayer, spirits were just as bright. 2 tracks of workshops were offered here as well, along with vendors, information booths, and some genuinely awesome live music. Let's take a look at that.
Half the cost. It's $5 for 6 tickets.
We're Butterfly Breakdown. Thanks for having us. We're going to start the set off with an original song. This is called Ever Tried.
Wondered where I went. I really messed things up again. I just wondered what it meant for you to love me like a friend. I don't think I recall ever knowing you at all, but the pressure that I feel makes all this sanity seem real. Who do you think I am? What do you want this to be? Better than I can. I'm just longing to be free. Whisper my name and let it carry you away. Or is this satisfying shame enough to keep your body safe? Keep your body, keep your body, keep your body sane. Keep your body, keep your body, keep your body sane. Ever did I try? I think it's better that I fail. Only you can see me cry or take the wind out of my sails. Don't think I recall ever knowing you at all, but the madness that I feel makes all this sanity seem real. Who do you think I am? What do you want this to be? Better than I can. I'm just longing to be free. Whisper my name and let it carry you away. Or is this satisfying shame gonna keep your body safe? Keep your body, keep your body, keep your body sane. Keep your body, keep your body, keep your body sane. Keep your body sane. Keep your body, keep your body, keep your body sane.
And thank you.
September also saw Oregon play host to 2 different pagan festivals on the last weekend of the month. The Pent News was excited to attend both. We started the weekend at Silver Falls State Park for the 29th annual Fall Equinox Festival hosted by the 9 Houses of Gaia. Vendors, workshops, rituals, and virtually endless eating were not stopped by the record-setting rains that struck Oregon that weekend. Let's take a quick look at that.
Because it's way too good.
Yeah.
We're hopeful that next year we will be able to bring you a few interviews from that event. But until then, we're making plans for a special episode of Magic Moment that's going to preview the upcoming 30th anniversary, hard to believe, of this wonderful event. By the way, the lovely green canopy with the tie-dyes that you saw was our own booth at the event, which was blown away mere moments after the footage was recorded. Amazingly, only the canopy was destroyed, everything else survived. Now, after packing up from the Fall Equinox Festival, we headed out to Waldport on the coast for the Oregon Coast Pan-Pagan Gathering. Let me tell you, the wind and rain were blowing. Sponsored by Ancient Light. Many different workshops and rituals were offered throughout the weekend, including classes on magical candle making, herbs, incense, wand making, and a whole lot more. We were lucky enough to catch up with Portland author Lupa and recorded a panel discussion about cultural appropriation in the pagan world. It was a very interesting discussion. So here's a look at the event and a taste of that discussion.
So, if they don't use what's happening, is that is mine. That's one of those.
Whose tradition is it anyway? Discussion of cultural appropriation. And for those who don't know, my name is Lupa. I write stuff. I'm a white girl from the Midwest, so I have a limited amount of stuff that I can say on this, just from one side of the issue of cultural appropriation. I did put together an anthology a couple of years ago talking about the elephant with a number of different authors who were...
so you can see the whole title, or whole cover.
Got a bunch of authors together from the pagan community to talk about issues of appropriation within paganism. So that's kind of where my perspective on this all comes from. I also practice neo-shamanism, and we'll get a little bit more into why even that word is sometimes considered contentious. So cultural appropriation, in its very barest, simplest sense, is one culture taking elements from another culture and incorporating it, or people from one culture taking stuff from another culture and incorporating it into their either religious practices or everyday practices, something from one culture going into another. But it gets more complicated than that. There are certain connotations associated with the term. Cultural appropriation generally is meant to mean appropriation by a dominant group in an area, appropriating from a more disempowered group.
I mean, we're all looking for the same thing, the spiritual balance. And if I can't tell you where to look, then I fail. That's the way I feel.
But how do we get that damage wiped out? How does it get balanced?
You don't.
Well, and it's not... It's not that simple, because the people, using the example that you have, you said it yourself, the people who are doing that kind of thing, they're looking for power because they feel disempowered. They're trying to find some alternative.
The answer is, for us, we have to make it very clear that that's not pagan activity. We're more apt to plant trees around the church. And
Our thanks to the folks at Ancient Light for inviting us out for this event. I was lucky enough to get to teach incense making workshops at both of these festivals, and I had a complete blast. I hope everybody else did too. I'm really looking forward to next year. I hope the events are going to be on different weekends. I'm also hopeful that the extra time at each event will allow us to get a few more people to chat with our cameras. Hope everyone who attended one of my workshops is now enjoying the wonderful incense that we made together.
While September was packed with activities, there's still a lot more to come. So let's take a look at our community calendar to see what events you need to put on your calendar.
I also have to offer my apologies to the Waterloo pagans in Lebanon. They were kind enough to welcome me to their Mabon gathering, and I got to meet with quite a collection of wonderful folks. Unfortunately, the switching back and forth between different public access cameras caused me to leave behind a critical piece of equipment, so I was unable to record any video. I am so sorry, and I can promise that once we own our own cameras, these kinds of problems are going to end. I'm truly sorry for not being able to record so many wonderful pagan folks who were so welcoming to me.
Finally, for this episode, a bit of entertainment news. Season 3 of FX Network's American Horror Story returns. The show's focus on witches. The new season premieres October 9th and is called American Horror Story Coven. Starring Jessica Lange, Sarah Paulson, Angela Bassett, and Kathy Bates, this season's story focuses on the witch bloodlines that survived the 300 years since the witch trials in Salem. According to the network, this season's storyline begins with mysterious attacks taking place against America's witches. In response to this, young witches are being sent away to a special school in New Orleans to learn how to protect themselves. It appears there will be boundless drama and conflict. As a long-absent witch leader returns, problems build between the witches and the voodoo practitioners in New Orleans, and a central character arrives as a student at the school with a secret of her own. The reaction among witches and other pagans online has been mixed. The show's highly stylized look and music and writing have left many eagerly awaiting the season premiere, while others have expressed concerns about the show building inaccurate stereotypes and once again replacing knowledge about witches with Hollywood visions that are anything but accurate. Personally, I think most people will realize this is all fiction and isn't meant to educate.
Well, it's always possible the exposure from the show might spark some interest in real witchcraft.
I think so.
Now, finally, we have some news from all of us right here at the Pent O'Clock News. First, we want to extend our heartfelt appreciation to Dr. Todd Bernstein. For those of you who are not familiar with his work, Dr. B was the creator of the Pagan Voice television show. Sadly, that show went off the air just as our shows were launching, but Dr. B was very kind to us last month and sold us a critical piece of equipment at well below market value.
Thank you.
He also donated some additional gear to us, and we are extremely grateful for his help. Plus, having a piece of equipment that was used to produce the Pagan Voice feels a little bit like the torch has been passed from the Pagan Voice to us. We're also pleased to announce the launch of our new website. Both the Pent O'Clock News and Magic Moment have a new home on the web at www.pagantv.org. Through our website, you can more easily find past episodes of both shows, see our future shooting schedule, contact us, leave feedback, and more. We hope that you'll check it out the next time you're web surfing. Well, that's it from us for this month. Our thanks once again to the folks at Pagan Pride Day in Salem and Portland, the Waterloo Pagans, Nine Houses of Gaia, and Ancient Light in Waldport. We truly appreciate you opening up your events to our cameras so that we can preserve them for the future, as well, of course, as bringing them to our audience today.
Have a safe and wonderful Samhain, and we'll see you again in November.
Blessed be.